Bhagavad Gita is a book of mankind's collected experience of and answers to life's most basic questions. Who I am, from where do I come, what is my purpose and destiny, and most practically, how do I find happiness? These podcasts originate in the lectures of Neil Bhatt, a disciple of Swami Chinmayananda. They are presented here in 20 to 30-minute segments, each covering 3 of the Gita's 701 verses. Welcome to Gita Wisdom for Daily Living.
We have been discussing chapter 10. We are coming to the conclusion. So chapter 10, so far we have seen that Bhagavan has been hammering on the same idea which had been discussed many times before in Bhagavad Gita, that I am the source of all things and beings. The central theme of Bhagavad Gita is there is unity in diversity. Even though we see things in this world as a world of plurality, that each individual is different from each other, each thing is different from each other, but there is a unseen thread running through all the things and beings which are so different from each other, because they all come from the same source. So there is similarity, there is something which is common to all. That's Bhagavan's basically theme all throughout the Bhagavad Gita. He had been explaining that in various ways. And we have seen in the beginning of this chapter, Bhagavan has reiterated that aham sarvasya prabhavaha matta sarva pravartate. I'm the source of all beings and everything proceeds from me. It is something like a scientist would say that everything started from Big Bang in our universe, and everything which we see in this universe is nothing but came from the Big Bang. So when you and I are nothing but the product of the Big Bang, when there was nothing but hydrogen and helium, and now we have all this complex mechanism, the complex universe that we are trying to understand. So if somebody comes out and says, that's all good, but explain to me, how can I see that evidence of that Big Bang or the source of that Big Bang in the universe? Then people can start explaining that what you see in the galaxies, you see the hydrogen in the galaxy, the microwave radiation, it all comes from that original sense. But you still have to go and give some examples. So here Arjuna says the same thing. I understood that everything comes from that supreme reality. You, the supreme reality. Many sages in the past have said the same thing, and you are also now saying the same thing. I'm not doubting those sages, nor I have any doubt in you. But can you give me some examples in my life where I can feel your presence in the world of objects and beings? And that's what Bhagavan has given 54 examples. Very reluctantly, hantate kathayishyami. Okay, alas, I explained all of this, but you still want to know. It's like we all can learn Bhagavad Gita and say that God is everywhere, God has no form, God is not a man, He is not a woman, but then the end say, but I want to have Bhagavan's darshan. Because we are stuck with our perception of the reality. Our perception is limited by our mind and intellect and our senses. We also want to see Bhagavan in the image which we have created in our mind. Arjuna says the same thing. Show me evidence of your presence in my world. So Bhagavan has given these 54 examples, starting from all the Vedic entities to Pauranic, and then in the natural phenomena and everything else which you can think about, including some negative ones. Dandaha damayatam asmi. And among all the cheating, I'm gambling. So he wanted to convey to Arjuna that I am not just in good, but everything that's seemingly evil to you in your world, that also exists only because I exist. And then the last 4 verses are somewhat conclusion of this chapter, where Bhagavan says, okay, I have exhausted all examples which I can give you. But there is not really any end to this discussion. You can continue to say, just give me one more example, just give me one more example. So he said, Yacha api sarva bhutanam bijam tad aham Arjuna. whatever is the source of anything, because anything, as we have described in this world, is an effect. When I see something which I can perceive through my senses, it's an effect. There has to be a cause. There has to be a source. So you see a child, there are parents for that child. A child cannot exist without parents. So the parents are the source of the child. We see pizza, there is a pizza maker somewhere. So everything we know has a source. And right now our conclusion is everything has different sources. Wood comes from somewhere, steel comes from somewhere else. Then all this come together and we build buildings. Bhagavan here says that whatever you see in this thing, in this world, is a being. Being means that which has the existence, is a being. That which comes into being, which comes into existence in this space and time, I am the source. No matter what you see. Yachapi sarva bhutanam bijam tad aham arjuna. I am the seed. I am the cause. I am the primordial cause for all things and beings. We understand this analogy of a seed and anything which comes out of it. A tree, a being, an animal, a human being from the seed. But in that case, the seed is destroyed after that manifestation is completed. When tree comes into existence, that seed is gone. But in this case, that seed is immutable. It remains as the support for that manifestation. So that cause remains support for the effect. There are 3 laws of causation Swamiji teaches. One of them is said, if you remove the cause from the effect does not remain. You remove the cause from this universe, which is the Supreme Being, the universe does not remain. The gold is the cause for gold ornament. You remove the gold from gold ornament does not remain. Na tad asti vina yat syam atmaya bhutam characharam. Without me, the moving or unmoving cannot exist in this world. Just as if we remove the gold ornament cannot exist. So Bhagavan has basically concluded that all these examples are given for you to understand and try to train your mind to start seeing things as they are. They're all made up of the same material. This universe has a one source. Eventually you can trace down the source to that one entity which remains immutable. Because that's the uncaused cause. There is no source for that cause. If you find a source for that cause, then you can go further and find that source. So at one point of time, there will be a cause which is no cause. So therefore, Bhagavan said, I am that cause. And without that, nothing can exist. You remove that from this universe disappears. It's like in my dream, my own thoughts are the source of my dream. But when I go into the deep sleep, that dream cannot exist because without my mind, the source, the dream cannot exist. So the Bhagavan here says, conclusion of all my examples is that I am the ultimate cause. I am the ultimate source of all things and being. No thing, moving or unmoving. This is the very efficient way in Vedanta to explain that it includes everything. When it's moving and unmoving. So all sentient beings and all inert things, all included in that thing, cannot exist without my presence. Na antah asti mama divyanam vibhutinam parantapa. There is no end to my vibhuti. You cannot count all the manifestations. If you want to catalog all the manifestations of physical world, in this physical world, even that's not possible. So now we have in our science all this Webb telescope so we can see as far as possible. But let's say we want to catalog all the galaxies and all the stars in this universe. It's impossible. No matter what kind of a telescope you will have, there are billions and billions of stars and millions of galaxies. It's almost impossible. And by the time you catalog all of them, the new galaxies are formed, and new stars are born, new all stars. It's a continuous change. Therefore, in Sanskrit, it's called Jagat, universe. But Jagat is that which is constantly changing. Something which is constantly changing, there is no end to its manifestation. If it is constantly changing, you cannot count it. But by the time you catalog what you have known, new things come into existence. We were in high school, we thought if I learn this physics and chemistry, then I'll be good at it. Well, physics and chemistry keeps changing in my own lifetime. So even that is not possible. Na antah asti mama divyanam vibhutinam paranta. But there is no end to the divine glories, the physical manifestation of myself. Esatu udvesatah proktah vibhutehe vistaro maya. But I told you some in detail just because you asked for it. I gave you examples. Now you can figure out rest by yourself. Basically, you teach somebody how to think, then the person can think himself. Rather than spoon feeding him, give them example. And then a person can learn on his own how to detect that. If you figure out, if you are working in a jewelry shop and you figure out how to test a gold ornament, whether it's gold or not, once you have one example, you can then apply that on any other example. So taking all these 54 examples, you've seen the method that anything which you see which has some excellence, that's because of the presence of that Lord. So Bhagavan said, now I told you all that, you should be able to detect this. But in conclusion, I can tell you, yat vibhuti mat sattvam srimat urjitam eva va tattat eva avagachatvam mama teja ansa sambhavaha. Whatever you see in this world, the world of your experiences. As Swamiji says, the Jagat is not just the physical world which is changing outside. The world of my experiences, world of my perception, that is changing constantly. Whatever in your perception, in your experience you see as Vibhuti Mat, which has glory or its own excellence. Sattvam, existence. Sat is which is real. Asat, which is unreal. So Sattvam, one context, purity, also that which has existence. Srimat, prosperous. And Urjitam, energetic. So anything which you see in this world, in nature, in society, in your community, in your family, where you see these qualities, you should know that they are all coming from me alone. Tatta eva avagachatvam mama teja ansa sambhavam. It's coming into existence because a iota of my being. So don't consider that if I add up all this manifestation, if someday with some supercomputer and add it up, that will be Bhagavan. He said, no, that will be just an iota of my being. Swamiji gives a very good example that my mind has all the capabilities. But once in a while it gets confused or deluded by some random thought. And then it goes into a wrong direction. It creates this scenario which is unrealistic. That doesn't mean I have completely lost all my ability to think. My 99% of my ability is still valid, but right now it's dormant. It's covered by the one delusion. But when that one delusion is removed, 100% of my ability will be back. Then I'll be back the same person. So Bhagavan is Satchidananda, he is ever pure. But this manifestation, the Prakriti, the world of plurality come into existence by just one part which creates this disturbance, which they call the Hiranyagarbha, cumulative vasanas of all the beings and things which are in this universe. That one portion is now creating a new world. So when I go to sleep, my world comes to an end. When I deep sleep, there is no world. I don't exist, world does not exist. Both are gone. But my vasanas are there in dormant form. That dormant vasanas will find the appropriate condition. My body has rested fully. It's now daytime. It will wake up and they will all come back and manifest and create my own world. In case of Ishvara also, Ishvara remains as pure as Brahman, but all the cumulative vasanas of the Jagat are still in a dormant form when it becomes pralaya. That one fraction of my being creates this entire Jagat all over again. As we have learned in previous chapter, Brahma's one day is 1,000-hour yuga. But it's still the same cycle as I go through every day, every night and every day. I go to sleep, all my vasanas go in hibernation, I wake up, they all come back again. But then Bhagavan says, Athva bahuna etena, kim gnatena tava Arjuna. What is the use if I continue to give you these good examples? Because they are not going to add anything more to your understanding. It's like go to a shop and say, show me a G's refrigerator, because we are buying refrigerators. He shows you a model which is on a display and says, no, but I want to see all the refrigerators that G has made. So they're no use. They're all same. You see this model, they're all like that. I've given you all these 54 examples, rest is same. You figure it out yourself. Vishtabhya aham idam krusnam ekaonsena sthito jagataha. But know that I exist supporting this whole world by one part of myself. Rest of my being in that pure sattva. There is no disturbance, there is purity. One part remains actively engaged in this world as the creator, sustainer and destructor. Just like my mind remains the creator, sustainer and destroyer of all my experiences. Ishvara remains in the same profession. He continues to create, sustain and destroy. But once it's just one part of mine. If you understand that, that's not me. As we say, Brahman plus Maya is Ishvara. You remove Maya, which is supported by Brahman's one portion. Brahman remains Brahman. Then Maya makes Ishvara. So we concluded chapter 10 here. If you find this podcast helpful, please support it by donating any amount by going to the episode's website at neilbhatt.podbean.com or at chinmayarichmond.org. Thank you. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina Sarve Santu Niramayaha Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhaved. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.